My name is Dylan. I have Asperger's, dyslexia, history of selective mutism. I've been doing public speaking for years now, going around the New York City area to raise awareness for autism and learning disabilities, for inclusion in day-to-day life, and of all ages. I have Asperger's syndrome. A lot of people think in terms of autism, especially in the advocacy community. Among self-advocates, I often find that. Now, there is this bias against functioning labels. Now, I understand where that comes from. I respect that. However, I disagree with it. I've been in programs with people who are severely autistic, who can hardly communicate, and yet I get paired with them in the context of my own eloquence, my own eccentricities. Now, while it is true that we're all autistic, and I'm autistic too, Asperger's is a type of autism, I like to think of it in the context of denomination. Especially since, as an educator, a teacher having me in their classroom and someone else who could hardly speak, it's not good for me, and it's not good for that person, and it's not good for the person who's trying to teach us. It really doesn't work. I've been in classes where I have discussed Marxism more than once, and nobody knew what I was talking about, which led to me having conversations with the teacher in the context of a class discussion, because nobody understood what I was talking about. This happened a lot in government and history and stuff like that. But I like to think of it more in terms of denominations. That doesn't mean I'm severely autistic. However, I'm still autistic. It's like saying I'm Jewish, but I'm not Orthodox and wouldn't go to a Orthodox synagogue. And so it's a similar idea. But I do think we can get together on some things. Some social outings. I was at an event for people with autism where they took this fishing trip. Some of us were high functioning, some of us low functioning. That was good. I'm not much for fishing, but it included everyone, and we were able to do that. But maybe something like social skills or job skills, groups like that, we should be separated. In fact, I think we should be. So that way everyone can get their needs met and everyone can be respected for whatever they can do and for whatever they can't do. Now, I also liken this and put this into historical terms. This idea of saying we're all autistic, as opposed to say, I have Asperger's, the next person might have what's called PDD-NOS, pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise classified. I like to link it to this. On the streets of Jerusalem, people were originally discouraged from speaking Yiddish, so that way we all could have a national identity as used by speaking Hebrew. Now, I think of it in the context of a similar thing. So I think that's an interesting thing as well. When it comes to these denominations getting together, I've seen it actually work. I go to services at NYU sometimes, and the conservative group and the reform group have dinner together, and yet we go to services separately. So we could still get together, even denominations, respect one another, and stand by one another, but still have everyone's needs met. Oftentimes, Asperger's has a lot of deficits in socialization. Reading facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, interpreting things literally, or even simply social mannerisms that people might not think about as they navigate day-to-day life. There are also sensory issues as well. what's called sensory processing or sensory integration, where we are hypersensitive, or perhaps even undersensitive, to various stimuli in our environment. Like, some of the most common would be sound, lights, or crowds. We also oftentimes have fine motor delays, trouble learning things like I've always been a bit of a klutz. There are also co-occurring conditions, or morbid conditions. Some of those common would be dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, all of which I have. And things like ADHD, and 30% of the autism community absolutely has epilepsy. So there are a lot of things as well. Also mental health issues, depression, anxiety. These are all things that go around in our community, in the autism community. We also have intense interests, things that we can focus on for long periods of time, that we could obsess over, and then over time become experts in our field. A lot of us have co-occurring conditions. For me, they're learning disabilities. I have dyslexia, which affects how I read. I still can't use email. Oftentimes I don't even know what word I'm looking at. I also have trouble with spelling. Words are commonly skipped, misspelled. I have problems like that. I have problems with all these things. As you get older, there is less resources. I have faced age discrimination. I've called places up and I've asked for reading help. They have told me no, they won't work with me because I'm 21 years old. I also have dysgraphia. So if I try and write something, maybe it will turn out okay the first time, but by the fifth time, I will feel physical agony with the content getting progressively larger and more illegible. I also have dyscalculia. I have problems understanding numbers, big numbers, mathematical stuff, finances, all that stuff, but I understand economics. I understand Wall Street, Paul Krugman, Richard Wolff, and Robert Reich as well. I had a lot of problems with the way it works is this. If I try to read something without tinted glasses, my visual system will double the image, so it cancels itself out. So by putting tinted glasses on it, it evens out the image, which helps immensely, but there's still more work to be done. Oftentimes, we have special interest and obsession. It can affect our career decisions. When I heard tell me when I was 12, I decided that I was going to devote my life to music. 3 months later, I started to learn to play guitar. 2 years later, I started writing my own songs. It can also lead to isolation. When I was in high school, I was interested in politics, history, and music that was over 50 years old. And so that was a problem with me and the other students in relating to them. It can also be empowering. When I learned to play guitar, it gave me a way to speak out for what I believe in. For equal rights of the disenfranchised, workers, people with disabilities, the social safety net, nonviolence, all these things that are extremely important to me, and of course anti-Semitism. All these things that are extremely important to me, and what I believe should be stood up for, and what I believe in. They can also be academically oriented. When I was in high school, I took a class in government. It was basic. Going in, I knew 95% of the curriculum on day one, because I've obsessively watched MSNBC, The Young Turks, when Gore had current, I watched that. Also, watched news from Israel, news from England. I've watched news from all these places and documentaries on all these things. I obsessively watch documentaries on this too. So, because of that, I had problems with the rest of the students. I knew more going in, so I was relating things that we were talking about to politics, history, philosophy, different, things that I happen to be interested in. It can lead to companionship, where together, where I can find people who are interested in what I like. I found people to jam with this way. It's like the old saying, they said it about the Velvet Underground, the Stooges. If at the time, it is said that everyone who bought a Velvet Underground record formed a band. It is also said that everyone who bought a Stooges record formed a band. It's very similar to that camaraderie. It can be a passion. Now I passionately want to do these things, and I obsessively think about it all the time. Also build our self-esteem, because we can now take pride in all these things that we are able to do. Oftentimes, we have what's called sensory processing issues, or sensory integration, where we're hypersensitive to some things, undersensitive to others. This is caused by our sensory systems in our bodies not working in unison with one another. Oftentimes, we have hypersensitivity to sound, especially like loud frequencies. A lot of people talking in the room, in any given room, overwhelms me. That's why this is a white noise machine. When I was apprenticing in a recording studio, as I learned about audio engineering and sound, I figured out a way to filter out the noise that was going around me, so I wouldn't be triggered to have sensory overload. So, with this white noise machine, I don't experience sensory overload. I've also figured out how to make white noise using recording software as well. Just because you're hypersensitive to one type of sound doesn't mean you're hypersensitive to another. For example, I can't deal with bass frequencies in a lot of modern music you see today. I also have trouble with fireworks. If I hear fireworks, I'll have an instant meltdown. Music is organized theoretically, or perhaps even mathematically, depending on how you look at it. So if I played the Ronson on Mib Street Bob, and then played it slower, it's all based off of the same thing. No matter how fast or slow I play it, so it's still organized. In fact, when I play rock and roll and blues, I oftentimes turn up the distortion on my guitar. I also go to rock and roll concerts, and when it comes to guitar and sounds like that, I actually enjoy it being played louder and faster, the better. We also have issues with edible consumption. Most things I cannot eat. I can't eat ice cream because it's too cold. I eat very little overall. We also have a tendency to be hypersensitive to light. I have a hypersensitivity to light. Oftentimes when I go to museums, I have to take off my glasses, which cuts the input going in. However, I pay a price because I'm walking around a museum half blind. And so I also, apart from that, I also have to wear tinted glasses, prescribed for me when I was going to vision therapy. These tinted glasses also help with that as well. Now, when I cut the input going in, when I take off my glasses, I also think of that as what people would call in the audio world a equalizer, which essentially takes frequencies and either raises frequencies or lowers frequencies. Now, in my case, I cut frequencies going into my visual system because sensory issues are not visual. They are neurological, so I can get around them by cutting the input going in. I also have a hypersensitivity to touch. A lot of autistic people do. I can't deal with the touch of most people. I can't wear belts that feel like boa constrictors. I can't wear watches. I'm also hypersensitive to smell as well. When I was visiting FIT, I went to their cosmetics department. When they walked in, my eyes started to burn. Even just being outside of it was difficult. My eyes started to burn. I'm very much sensitive. A lot of fragrances as well. We also have a tendency to experience sensory overload, which is where the stimuli in any given environment becomes too much, in usually multiple forms, where everything starts to race and it becomes very difficult to function in XYZ setting. We also cope with that sometimes with what's called self-stimulation or stimming, where we might rock back and forth, or we might start pacing, or we might do hand waving. I've done a little bit of everything at this point. We also have meltdowns, which are triggered by sensory overload oftentimes. When things get too much, the overload, which does involve anxiety, but a physical reaction could still neurological, the meltdowns come in where it becomes so much, we actually start to feel physical pain, oftentimes, by our environment. And so, because we feel this physical pain, it can trigger us to break down in tears, but it doesn't always happen right away. I could be in situations, maybe the first time, in any given period, be okay, maybe the second time, but after a month of doing that same thing, I might experience full-fledged meltdowns by the end of it. So it's important to understand that it's not exactly the first time, always. It could be the first time, or maybe not. It doesn't necessarily equate to being every time. A lot of these things are variable based upon situations. Oftentimes we have a rigid mindset. Oftentimes we're nonverbal. Sometimes our whole lives, other times not as long. I myself had selective mutism for over 5 years, where I spoke to almost no one. From the time I was 8 to the time I was 15. I went to residential for 6 years and 6 months. I spoke to almost no one there. But I did speak to a few people. A few close friends. I've spoken to a couple of people. Also, when I was in school, I refused to write. I refused to do any sort of handwriting whatsoever. Also, when I was in school, I had a lack of academic production. I wasn't diagnosed with Asperger's until I was 17. So I had a lot of meltdowns, which I'll get into later, and shutdowns, which I'll get into later. My diet is very restrictive. There are times I eat almost nothing. Chicken, rice, pasta, a few basic things, and an assortment of Jewish food. I don't like beds. I have trouble acclimating to a given task analysis. When things change in routine, when people do things differently than how I'm used to. One time, on the verge of a meltdown, practically having sensory overload. I was about to perform. I had a gig, and I was told 5 minutes before I got on stage that I couldn't use an amplifier. That really sent me into a bind. A lot of positive support services out there, one of which being Wrong Planet, an online community for people with autism. When I was first diagnosed, I went on there a lot, and it helped me immensely. I've watched videos on social skills, on various other things as well. There's also Friends of Quinn, which is the same thing, but for people with learning disabilities as well. There is also residential treatment centers, which have helped me immensely. I was in residential for 6 years and 6 months. I know a lot of parents and caretakers and legal guardians would be skeptical of that, but it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, or one of them, because of that, I'm now able to talk publicly. I'm now able to do things, and I've also met friends there who I'm friends with to this very day. Also, role models. Temple Grandin, people like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Peter Townsend, Bob Dylan, people like Chuck Berry, Muddy Waters, Robert Johnson. All these different people had a big effect on me. Social Security, disability as well. Now, in the autism community, we have a word for this. It's called autism bucks. Now, a lot of people might think that as a person on Social Security, I'm a moocher. But because Social Security pays for my Metro card, I am now able to go around and spend my time networking for speaking engagements. I can go to clubs and network and perform, and I'll have money to fall back on. I can go and use that money like I did to get an LAR ticket so I can go to a conference and meet a director that would cast me in our feature film. And if it wasn't for Social Security, I wouldn't have the money to do this. So Social Security is fundamental, I would say, to our democracy. Also, exposure therapy. Exposure therapy has also been extremely helpful to me. I went through it for talking, and so the way it works is this. I went through it for talking. The way it works is this. You start out by creating a hierarchy of what you're comfortable with to what you're least comfortable with, and then you work your way up from there. So then I started talking to more people, and now I'm not like mute anymore. Oftentimes, as autistic people, we struggle with social interaction. We have a way of interpreting things literally. When I was in the feature film Keep the Change, that was a major issue, because I can't really pretend to do anything. So that is a major issue that we struggle with. Also, reading body language, reading social cues of any kind, is a big issue for us. I personally have trouble, which is why I came up with the hidden conversation about captioning social cues to help autistic people. I also have trouble with interrupting people in conversations, especially when I'm excited about a given interest. I also have problems rambling. People have hung up on me because I've obsessively rambled on whatever issue, especially my special interests. I am oftentimes distracted by my sensory issues. When I am going through a sensory issue, like say lights, my social skills are deeply affected. I never understood social mannerisms. It always, to me, I think of it as an inorganic script, and I choose to live life my way without them, which is a more honest way of living, I think. especially when a lot of autistic people act to get through day-to-day life. Oftentimes I've been rather blunt. I've said things where I have hurt people's feelings unintentionally, without meaning to. I have trouble relating to people. It's considered to be the social disconnect. Think of it like this. This is a mezuzah. Picture walking into a room where you have Jewish people walking past the doorway, perhaps putting their hand on it like that, and kissing it, and you understand that obviously it's of symbolic importance, but you don't know why, but you understand that people are doing it. Well, that's sort of how the social disconnect is for us as autistic people. If you wish to contact me, you can do that. My phone number is listed below. If you have any questions, if you want me to speak in your area, or if you are a musician, filmmaker, audio engineer, I am open to collaboration. I'm looking to become a professional musician, and so I'm looking to collaborate in any way that I possibly can. I am a resource for the community. When I succeed, we all succeed. We are, after all, one community. My phone number is listed below. I don't use email because of my dyslexia. These are some of my greatest achievements. I've graduated from high school. I went on Birthright, which is a program in the Jewish community, which is a complimentary trip to Israel. For people 18 to 26, I went on an autism trip with Shorashim, or Israel with Israelis. I've learned to play guitar, despite my fine motor delays. In fact, I sat in with a reggae band, and I don't even like reggae, with one rehearsal for Keep the Tunes, the feature film. I became a pacifist because of the things that I went through, so no one should have to go through what I went through. I spoke at my high school graduation, where I brought people to tears. If you wish to contact me, you could reach me. My phone number will be listed below. I don't use email because of my dyslexia. I want to hear from you. If you would like me to speak in your area, or you want to know about resources, I am a resource to the community, artists, musicians, filmmakers. I want to hear from you too. What are you doing to get your message out there? I am interested in collaborating with others, networking with others, and working with others for the sake of art and to further these causes that I believe in. And let me reiterate, my contact information, my phone number will be listed below. I don't use email because of my dyslexia. My name is Dylan. I wrote this song. It's called This Is My Life. I wrote it about autism pride. And, yeah, this is a song I wrote called This Is My Life. It's about autism pride. Sometimes we don't, sometimes we don't say hello, hello, goodbye. Oh, look you in the You can teach us social skills. We will never change. First there was the hug machine, then there was white noise. We are proud to be this way. This is my life. These are my goals. 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 I wouldn't change it for the world. My name is Dylan. This is a song I wrote called Even Though We're Different. I wrote this song 6 months after I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. I play it at all my speaking engagements. I'm a professional public speaker. I play it at all my speaking engagements. So this is called Even Though We're Different. Because from the words of Temple Grandin, we are all different but not less than. It might be hard for you to relate to us. It's even harder for us to relate to you. Our quirky behavior makes you foreign to you. If you walk away, you'll be blinded in ignorance. We might be frail, we have a lot of compassion. All in all, we need the same hearts. There are great things about us. Some are walking, talking calendars. Others are musical geniuses. It's never too late to lend a hand. So raise a flag to understand. Even though we're different, we can be shining stars. Even though we're different, we can be shining stars. Some of us have gone on to do great things, like invent the hug machine on a yogurt diet at a neurotypical college, and a spot in Hollywood history. And the logistics just looking less full. Oh, by this you're not being able to understand body language or facial expressions. That's how it is for us. Even though we're different, we can be shining stars. Even though we're different, we can be shining stars. Even though we're different, we can be shining stars. For the record, one out of 68 of us is diagnosed every day. Some of us don't get diagnosed until our later years. Oh, by the way, this is a vaccine. Violence is a misconception for our kind. The refrigerator mother's milk. That's why the government needs to take care of us and everybody else. And for welfare state, aka socialism. Even though we're different, we can be shining stars. Even though we're different, we can be shining stars. Even though we're different, we can be we can be